With all eyes on impeachment, you might forget that there are other things that are going on. Last month, the House unanimously passed the Public Disclosure of Drug Discounts Act. That legislation would create more transparency when it comes to discounts negotiated between insurance companies and drug manufacturers.
The bill would also require Medicare drug plans to offer real-time benefits to information. Just joining us to discuss the significance of this, as well as some other legislative actions that you might hope to see, is the Congressman Jodey Arrington of Texas. Congressman Arrington introduced the legislation and serves as a member of the Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. So, Congressman, let's start with USMCA. That's the trade deal. It's snaking its way through the House of Representatives. Do we expect a vote in this legislative year on USMCA at any point? Are you optimistic on that, sir, given that you are from Texas and there's quite a bit of business that goes across that border?
Sagar, it supports 1 million jobs in the great state of Texas. Texas is the largest exporting state in the country, about $300 billion annually. I come from West Texas, which is big ag part of the state. It's $100 billion agriculture is to the state of Texas. This is a huge deal, and America stands to gain 170,000 plus jobs, 70 billion in economic overall economic impact. Auto industry, agriculture, as we just mentioned, and just manufacturers in general, and our economy in general will win here if we can get it to a vote. Now, that's I think the key here is the politics of getting it to a vote. I think if you take a vote today, we have unanimous, overwhelming, bipartisan support. I talked to my colleagues, Democrat colleagues and friends from Texas and beyond, and they're all for it. They know it's improved on the labor and environmental standards, which I think were there. They were pretty sensitive to that going in. They wanted to make sure those would be enforced. I think we have the belt and suspenders in place to assure that would happen. And so it's all about, will Nancy Pelosi bring it to a vote so we can ratify it and get a much better, fairer deal with our largest trading partners, Canada and Mexico. I think it's going to happen, by the way.
Yeah.
A number of labor groups, though, AFL-CIO in particular, have come out against the deal. I wanted to know your thoughts, though, more broadly. I mean, the president ran against NAFTA. That was a key part of his pitch, was running against bad trade deals. And really, he said he would get rid of NAFTA altogether. Is that your view as well? Do you think NAFTA has been positive for your district in particular? Do you think it's been positive for the country?
I think NAFTA has been good in general, but it lacks the parity in terms of laws and regulations and rules between Mexico and the United States. And that has created sort of a magnet to bring some of the operations and jobs to Mexico. And that's why in this agreement we've raised some standards like minimum wage and other rules and regulations that would bring parity so that we were competing on an even playing field and there wasn't that giant sucking sound out of the country and to Mexico. Then there were huge barriers to the markets there in Canada, especially with our dairy and poultry industries, and they stand to gain upwards of $300 million, almost 50% increase in their market share. Auto workers, auto industry stands to gain $24 billion in additional revenues. I think it's 70+ thousand new jobs. So this is significant. When you talk about labor standards, the USMCA, NAFTA rather, had basically a side agreement. It wasn't really in the corpus of the main deal, was about 5 different provisions on labor. We have 3 times that many provisions on labor in terms of worker safety, right to strike, and a whole host of other things. That's now in the main deal. It's in the corpus of the agreement. So it is substantially improved. And I think we can also tighten some things up with the implementing legislation in terms of assurances that these provisions will be enforced. So I think we are so far beyond NAFTA, and we've made the fixes that need to be made to make this in the best interest of our country. I think America wins more than the other 2 countries for sure.
Yeah. So, Congressman, I also know that you've introduced this legislation on lowering the cost of drug pricing. Just talk a little bit about the legislation and its future in the chamber.
Sure. I think there are a number of things that we can do on a bipartisan basis to bring the cost of prescription drugs down for seniors and for everybody. I worked on some bipartisan legislation, and it's twofold. One, it puts some sunshine into the negotiations between pharma and the insurance companies so that we know what they're negotiating, for what price, what the rebates are. I have a real problem with the rebate system as it is because we don't know where it goes. I'd like that rebate to flow to the point of sale and to the seniors and to taxpayers. And so we've made some steps in the right direction, but I think there's a lot more we can do there. And then we gave seniors real-time benefits tools, which just means they can go on their mobile phones and they can get their apps and work through basically the process of seeing all their options in terms of drugs, generics, brand names, the cost, where they can purchase it at the lowest cost at point of sale. All of that, you know, at the touch of a finger, and that hasn't been the case before. So we had to fix some things with CMS, make sure that that information could be downloaded and they could be empowered as consumers. You empower them with information and they have more bargaining power, and it works out better for them.
Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thanks,
Congressman. We really appreciate it. It was great talking with you.
You bet. Likewise.
We'll have more Rising for you right after this.